Andy Reid was unlike his usual self today. He was very upbeat. He was giddy. It was wild seeing Andy Reid like that.
I think that Andy knows things have to be changed with that offensive scheme, and I think that we're going to see it.
He does see that we need it fixed from special teams to offense to defense to personnel decisions to everything. Andy seems as though he's heard the message loud and clear, and he thinks Bieniemy is going to come in and help him turn this around. And it actually suggests that maybe they're not done with front office stuff. Maybe they're not done with this roster. I think we could have a kind of a massive overhaul in a way. Do you think Jaylen Watson is going to be able to get back with the Chiefs, or do you think he will walk?
I find it hard to believe that the Chiefs would choose to pay Jaylen Watson over Trent McDuffie, and I understand that's two massively different contracts. It's going to turn into a little bit of a bidding war, right? And I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to fork out enough to keep Jaylen Watson around.
You're listening to All Chiefed Up, the podcast.
Chiefs Kingdom, ACU crew, welcome back to All Chiefed Up, the #1 independent Chiefs channel on YouTube. It is Tuesday, January 27th, and we're going to have a lot of conversations today about the Kansas City Chiefs, some draft prospects, and much, much more.
Today, Andy Reid had a presser, and he was basically introducing EB as the new offensive coordinator. And again, this is probably the biggest hire the Chiefs have done so far this offseason. They fired a lot of guys. Well, they fired 3 or 4, not as many as we'd like, but they've only made one significant hire to this point, and that's Eric Bieniemy. And Andy Reid was unlike his usual self today. He was very upbeat. He was giddy. It was wild seeing Andy Reid like that. But there was a few quotes I wanted to bring up that he talked about today. He talked about the coaching personalities between Eric Bieniemy versus Matt Nagy. And he was kind of careful to praise Nagy, but he did highlight Bieniemy and why they wanted to bring him back in the building. And he said, quote, I thought Matt brought great energy
too with his. It's different. It's a different, they both have their own personalities that they share with it. And EB does. He's going to be very direct with the players, very direct with the coaches, and it's a different flavor.
It's a different flavor. So kind of what we all thought that was going to happen was they was bringing in Bieniemy basically for the fact that he's going to be direct. There's nobody like EB on the field that does it like that. And I think that's significant for Chiefs Kingdom. They like that today because they kept saying it was total chaos. We need that tough love and that we lack discipline. And I think Andy Reid kind of reaffirmed that today.
Right. Well, I think Andy was excited that he just didn't have to change it up too much now, right? He was able to go get a guy that he's comfortable with and a guy that's proven to be a good offensive coordinator for the Chiefs if you go back and look through history. So obviously he wasn't going to say anything bad about Matt Nagy, but probably held off on praising him too much because he kind of knows where everybody is sitting as far as fans and everybody else goes on that whole matter. So, and then obviously Matt Nagy's out there doing his own thing, trying to find him another job. But yeah, man, I can see why that Andy Reid is excited about this because it's definitely a change that was needed. And, you know, I don't think Andy's dumb to the fact that things didn't go right last season and that there were major problems going on. So, yeah, you know, us as fans, we'll talk about it all the time, but he knows he's not dumb. So, I mean, he knows that things have to change, and I think that they're getting them going in the right direction. And this is a guy that people are happy with and happy to be have back on the team. If you look at what, you know, Patrick Mahomes had to say about it and what Travis Kelce had to say about it, this is a guy that they want back. They like him, and I think that it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it. You said that Andy kind of knows that there were some problems that they had to fix. And he kind of pointed to that today. He said that Bieniemy had a heck of a season as a running backs coach in Chicago and that they need that familiarity, that fixer guy to come in. Right. He actually was quoted saying, I'm going to fix the problems that we had in all phases. This isn't just an offense, but all phases. I think we all know the energy Eric brings and what he gives to this football team. So I think that he does see that we need it fixed from special teams to offense to defense to personnel decisions to everything. Andy seems as though he's heard the message loud and clear, and he thinks Bieniemy is going to come in and help him turn this around. And it actually suggests that maybe they're not done with front office stuff. Maybe they're not done with this roster. I think we could have a kind of a massive overhaul in a way once it gets to free agency and things. Maybe Brett and him's going to go a whole different route here. And it could validate a lot of maybe even the guys we're going to talk about later on when it comes to draft picks and things that we're going to have to do going all the way up to the number 9 pick in the draft. Like all of this is going to have to factor into the change that Andy Reid knows he has to bring.
Absolutely. It might give you a little bit of a hint of where Andy's head's at, thinking maybe we need to run the ball a little bit more. Maybe we need to change up that offense because he went and got a guy that he knows can do that. He even alluded to him to being a fixer and somebody that had a great year as a running back coach in Chicago. So
Yes.
maybe people can take a little bit from that and kind of be excited about that, because I know that the majority of the fan base is like, hey, we've got to run the ball better. We've got to get under center more. We've got to change some things up. And I mean, that's the biggest knock with the Chiefs this year, was just that they were very stale, predictable, and the fans are over. They wanted to see major changes. And I don't think that they're going to get the major changes that they thought they were going to get, obviously with the hiring of Bieniemy and stuff like that. But I think that Andy knows things have to be changed with that offensive scheme. And I think that we're going to see it.
Yeah. You mentioned it, nail on the head there. Fans wanted to see a massive shift. And a lot of it was play calling. People think that Andy's gotten stale. The receivers just aren't getting open. They're not being coached up enough. The running back coach, Pinkston, was a problem. So many things, but a lot of it lied on the play calling. And Andy kind of touched on that today. He said that he still enjoys calling plays.
I still
but
enjoy
he's
calling plays, but what I do is I'm not afraid to delegate and get opinions from people, and then even in certain situations, letting them go ahead and call things in different areas. So we do this jointly. I mean, I keep it open.
I keep it open. I've felt that that's the best way. We've always said that Andy has his finger on everything. But he is not immune to not listening to people. He will take play calling ideas. He will take certain scheme ideas and he'll try to get it in. He's been known to do that with players. He'll go back and find plays from the Rose Bowl in 1940. And he's always done that. But it seems that in, familiar situations, Andy stays too familiar, almost to the point that the defenses know what we're going to do before we even do it. And so I think that was something that he said today that even kind of give you pause and be like, hey, Andy's been listening. Like he knows that the fans are harping on this play calling and that we want somebody like Bieniemy to come in and possibly be able to run the ball more, to do things like that, to switch this offense up a little bit, and that he does want to run his own show, but he will let Bieniemy, who was kind of famous for him and Mahomes calling wasp and doing things like that. I think he knew that Nagy kind of got in a slump and that Bieniemy might bring something a little different there. And then the last thing is that he also mentioned that they did do a number of offensive coordinator interviews, and we've only known about Eric Bieniemy, but I'm thinking they had to meet the Rooney Rule, so you had to have at least 2. I'm wondering if they didn't look at the QB coach, Dan Williams. He's the assistant QB coach. I called him QB coach. Sorry, that is Girardi. We all know that. But yeah, right. Dan Williams, I feel like he probably got an interview, possibly. And then you've also got, more than likely, we know they probably interviewed Girardi and maybe Blameyer. So maybe that's what they did. They interviewed a lot internally, and then the external hire and the one that they interviewed externally was Bieniemy, and then that's who they ultimately give the job to.
Yeah, dude, I think this is what they needed. And it's always going to be Andy Reid's offense. It just is. But you just have to have that thumbprint on it that's a little bit different. And I think Bieniemy proved to be better at that than Matt Nagy, just from history. So I'm excited about it, man. I think it's going to be a good thing all in all. And I think that the fans can at least be a little bit hopeful for some type of change. It's not going to be the major change, but I think Andy can come up with something good, and he's got to bounce back here, right? Like that's the main thing. He has to bounce back. If he has such a failure of a season that was like 6-11, and then he goes into the next season and does something similar, misses the playoffs, I mean, that could be all she wrote for Andy Reid as far as coaching in Kansas City and maybe coaching in general. And I don't think that he wants to go out like that. I think Andy's going to do his best to make sure he corrects everything. And another point I wanted to make was if you just look at the Super Bowl matchup coming up, like the Seahawks and the Patriots, those offenses, they're not the crazy elaborate offenses of Andy Reid, right? Like they run the ball a lot. They're very defensive heavy teams. And I think that's where the whole league's moving to. I think that's kind of the trend right now. And I think that's what's working. Obviously, you got 2 of those teams in the Super Bowl. And then they just beat a team. The Seahawks just beat a team in the Rams who kind of run that West Coast offense. And a similar thing to what Andy Reid does. And I think he's paying attention. And Andy's always been good his entire career at staying ahead of the trends and doing what he needs to be doing. It's just so happened the last couple of years he's failed at that. And I think he's got to get back into that groove. And, I think he can, go together with Eric Bieniemy and the other coaching hires that he's had, like O'Shea and all of them. And maybe they could put their heads together and come up with something good here this offseason.
Let's talk about the Chiefs possibly not retaining Jaylen Watson. This has been speculated now because Jaylen Watson is going to probably demand a little bit of money here in the offseason that the Chiefs might not be able to afford. ESPN's offseason guide for all 32 teams come out, and it made the Chiefs free agent class. They took a look at that. Insider Dan Graziano, and he hinted that cornerback Jaylen Watson potentially was going to make the most of his upcoming free agency stint. He said, quote, "The Chiefs drafted 4 defensive backs in 2022. 3 of them, Watson, Joshua Williams, and Brian Cook, are free agents, while cornerback Trent McDuffie is an extension eligible ahead of his 5th-year option season." He says, "I put Watson here as an example because the Chiefs, who have a history of letting cornerbacks leave in free agency and replacing them with draft picks, they need to decide who stays in their secondary. They could prioritize the McDuffie extension and just use a ton of picks on DBs again." So, Steve, where do you stand on this? Do you think Jaylen Watson's going to be able to get back with the Chiefs? Because he's hinted on IG that this could be his last season. Or do you think he will walk and get big money elsewhere?
Well, I kind of find it hard to believe that the Chiefs would choose to pay Jaylen Watson over Trent McDuffie. And I understand that's 2 massively different contracts, right?
Yeah.
But I just find it weird that they would trade off McDuffie and re-sign Jaylen Watson. Now, that is an option, obviously. But I think with Jaylen Watson, you're looking at a projected salary of like $12.5 million, I think is his market value. That's according to Spot Rack. And then over the cap has him at $15.1 million. So,
Right.
I mean, this kid could be making some pretty good money. Like you said, he's going to try to take advantage of that. This is his first big contract in the NFL. This is a guy that came in here that no one expected to do anything. He was a 7th-round draft pick that could have very well been a UDFA, right?
Yeah.
So I think he takes advantage of this. And I think there are a lot of teams out there that are always valuing corners. And I think they value the type of play that Jaylen Watson gives you because he's longer, quick and physical and all that stuff, really good in man coverage. And I think I've said it over and over again on this podcast. I think there's teams like the Ravens that would love to have him. And, it's going to turn into a little bit of a bidding war, right? And I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to fork out enough to keep Jaylen Watson around. Now, could they? Maybe if they do decide to get rid of McDuffie. Maybe they then try to go with the familiarity of keeping Jaylen Watson here. But like that quote said, man, the Chiefs are known to let these cornerbacks walk and then replace them via draft. So I think the draft could be very telling when it comes to this particular subject, because you might see if they're going to trade McDuffie or something like that, you might see that before the draft, right? To try to get some draft capital or whatever. But if you don't see anything like that, I think it'd be very telling in the draft to see if they decide to go with a corner and how high or early they decide to go with a corner. And that would kind of give you an idea of what they're wanting to do there, because if you don't retain either of those two, then you have some work to do, right? Because the only ones left on the team is rookie Noel Williams. You got Christian Fulton for 1 more year, and then you got a few other guys. But I think these are your main 2. These are the top 2 corners on the team, and I just think it could be a big blow and kind of hard to come back from if you let them both walk. So I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see. But McDuffie is on the 5th-year option here, so he could play all year. Then they could let him walk after that. So I'm not for sure, but there's a lot of different options here. I just don't think it's highly likely that they try to retain Jaylen Watson.
Chiefs Kingdom, please allow us to take this time to tell you about Brunt Workwear, because Brunt is offering up some insane apparel and some of the sickest boots we've ever seen. They've totally changed the game for workers across America and right here at the heart of it all in Kansas City. We were sent these boots to try out, and we were very skeptical. We don't need steel-toed boots to talk about Chiefs football. Well, that is unless Isaiah Pacheco is clomping around, and in that case, we're going to need a backup pair or 2. These boots are the Marin boots, and right out of the box, we were blown away. The presentation was impeccable. These boots are super nice. Such amazing quality and build to these. Brunt guarantees there's no long, painful break-in period like other brands for these boots, and I can say with 100% confidence, I did wear these around all day long with absolutely zero problems. Brunt builds tough, reliable gear that doesn't sacrifice comfort, quality, or style. Whether you're going to need waterproof, safety toe, or soft toe styles, they've got plenty of options for any job site. And look, it's not just boots. They've got heavy-duty pants, jackets, hats, and even just tees to wear around, and much, much more to keep you protected and productive. Plus, the best part about all of this is that Brunt stands behind their products. You wear them, and if they're not right for you, send them right back to them. There's not going to be any questions asked. So right now, for a limited time, get $10 off at Brunt with code ACU at checkout. Head to bruntworkerwear.com/ACU, use code ACU, and gear up for all your working needs. After you order, tell them you heard about it here at All Chiefed Up.
Right, I'm with you. I think he's a little bit too expensive. You mentioned his value. They're saying it could be somewhere around a 3-year, $38 million contract, but Over the Cap actually says he can make up to $15 million per year. So that's just, it's too much, especially if you want to extend McDuffie. Even if you don't extend McDuffie, that's a lot to pay a corner here. And so, Jaylen Watson has been a success story here, from 7th round pick to, one of his first big plays here was picking off Justin Herbert, running it back, for the pick 6 to win the game, all kinds of things.
Right.
Just this last year, he only surrendered a 79 in passer rating and coverage. 2024 was 75.4, so he's had solid back-to-back years. PFF had him as the 13th graded overall corner this year. He was number 6 in run defense, and he stands at 6'2", 200 pounds, and it's just that's something that Spags really looks for. Is he wants a guy that's going to come in and be super press man. He wants him to have length. He has 32-inch arms. That's just what you've looked for. He wants him to get home during the blitz. I'm pretty sure Watson's had, 4 sacks in the 4 years he's been here, so he can get after the quarterback. He's versatile. He can pretty much be on an island out there, and he does really well. There's so many options here, and you kind of want to keep Jaylen Watson if you could, but he's had a lot of injuries. Like you said, I think the Ravens or somebody's going to come in and throw some massive amounts of money at this kid. Maybe even like the Patriots or somebody like that. I could see somebody doing that to just try to get him off the Chiefs, try to steal a nice piece from Spags. So, I think I would have to look at maybe some replacements. If you don't want to just rely on Noah Williams and Christian Fulton, you may want to go find you a cheap alternative in free agency. The Raiders had a kid this year named Eric Stokes who was drafted by the Packers, who he signed a 1-year prove-it deal with the Raiders this year. And, this kid was a former first-round pick. He runs a 4.3. He's got first-round pedigree, but he's not lived up to hype. That's a perfect Veach kind of guy right there. There's just all that about it. And then the thing about this, Stokes was actually pretty elite in coverage this year. He ranked in the 84th percentile in PFF coverage grade and coverage on the perimeter on the outside. So his ability to stay on the field, I think he played like 98, 99% of the defensive snaps this year. He was durable. He's got elite recovery speed. He's got that same size, 6'1", 200-ish, 32-inch arms. He's right there with Jaylen Watson. He's a good tackler. That's another thing Spags wants. He wants somebody to be able to tackle, and Jaylen Watson was good at that. Stokes is versatile. He's got a good IQ. He's only going to be around $4 to $5 million. So, that right there could be a potential free agent signing if you didn't want to just go to the draft. But we've talked about it time and time again, Steve. They like to go to the draft. That's where Brett Veach hits, and I could see them barring giving up McDuffie for a bunch of draft picks and just doing it that way. Maybe they take an Eric Stokes cheap option in free agency, or they just go to the draft anyway.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing here is all the insiders are saying that Jaylen Watson is going to be priced out of Kansas City. And I mentioned the Ravens, but there's also another player in there. A lot of them's kind of predicting the Titans as being a team that he might go to. And they always kind of use those Bergonzi connections and stuff like that. But it definitely makes sense. And like you said, there's some guys out there on the market that could maybe do something similar to what he did for a lot cheaper of a price. I also think that there are some guys in the draft. You have to think, man, we hit Jaylen Watson in the 7th round, right? And got that production out of him.
Yeah.
And I mean, who's to say they couldn't do the same thing again? Now, they haven't had as much success with corners. I mean, if you look at how Najee Johnson didn't really work out, Josh Williams hasn't been able to get on the field. They drafted Kamal Haddon and they let him go before the season even started. Chamari Connor hasn't exactly worked out the way they had hoped he was going to work out. So, I mean, it's not like they're like 100% hitting these corners, but it could happen. And that's why I said I think that, if you kind of watch the draft and see how the Chiefs go about that corner position, if they draft a corner or if they maybe put a lot of stock into a corner and draft one earlier than people think they will, then we can kind of see what's going on with that corner position. But I think either way, which there's so many different routes the Chiefs could take here, I don't think corner is necessarily something that I'm super worried about with the Chiefs overall. It's more about getting that offense straight and getting some pass rush because, if we could get some pressure on the quarterbacks, it takes a lot off of these corners. And then you can have younger, less experienced corners in there as long as these quarterbacks ain't having all day to sit there and pick them apart. So I just think there's a lot of players that go into this entire thing. Me personally, I don't know if Jaylen Watson is going to be around next year. I think that would be a tough signing for the Chiefs, especially with McDuffie's contract up in the air.
Right, and I'm with you. You didn't even mention Najee Johnson or Nick Jones. That's two other guys that they.
I did Johnson.
Really
I forgot about Jones though. Yeah.
Right. So you've got those two, and like you said, I think a lot of it comes down to pressuring the quarterback and going after and getting guys that can win up front and win quickly. That helps your DBs, and we're going to get to a few of those in a minute and talk about those in our draft scout reports this week. And so we're going to talk about two guys there, but get down in the comments and let us know if you think the Chiefs should retain Jaylen Watson, or do you think you should just let him walk, or do you think we should get rid of McDuffie for picks and keep Jaylen Watson? Let us know. And then also, do you like any guys in the draft? Do you like any guys on the free agent market that could come in and help Fulton and Noah Williams? Get down in the comments and let us know that, Steve. But let's go ahead and shift this over. The next great touchdown is coming, and you can bet on it. All Chiefed Up has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, and just because the regular season has ended, it doesn't mean the excitement has to end. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on star player props and in-progress games right as they happen. New customers can even turn $5 into $300 if your bet wins, paid out in bonus bets. So sign up using our promo code ACU. And again, new customers who bet $5 can turn that into $300 if your bet wins, paid out in bonus bets. With DraftKings, the crown is yours. One more Chiefs topic today I kind of wanted to touch on. Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox suggested a match for the Chiefs on January the 22nd, and he said it does make a good deal of sense. He explained that Russell Wilson as QB2 would be a great fit, and he labeled Wilson as the Chiefs, his best landing spot in NFL free agency. He goes on to say Wilson is unlikely to find a true starting opportunity this offseason, but he could make sense as a bridge option for the Chiefs. Mahomes is recovering from a torn ACL, and he hasn't really guaranteed he'll be back for week 1. And neither Minshew or Oladokin is under contract for 2026. The Bleacher Report analyst concluded that joining Kansas City might allow Wilson to start a few more games, perhaps be a part of a Chiefs resurgence back in 2026, and calmly shift into the backup phase of his career. Steve, you've been on record saying you don't like Russell Wilson. You don't like him as an option. Are you changing your tone here? Or do you think Russell Wilson could come in and provide a little bit of stability? And we know he likes to throw the deep ball. Maybe this is something that can, help Xavier Worthy get out of his shell a little bit.
He definitely loves throwing those moon balls, that's for sure. But I mean, obviously Russell Wilson, instantly I want to be like, no, get him away. I just think of like Broncos country, Let's ride, and like all the goofy stuff and all the stuff that comes along with him off the field and everything like that. But I mean, there are a few reasons of why it does make sense for the Chiefs, right? And you mentioned a few of them, but I mean, he's got the system versatility, right? He's been in a lot of different systems. So I think he could probably come into Andy Reid's a new concept and maybe figure that out pretty easily, be a smoother transition than like a younger backup. Now, I don't know if it would be smoother than just, trying to get back Gardner Minshew, who's been working with the team right now, but it definitely could be a lot easier than someone, kind of young or raw or whatever. And then he does have the experience is the main thing when I start thinking about it, because if he's going to play that bridge role, if Mahomes can't get back in week 1, you want a guy that has that experience leading and having that leader role in the locker room and on the field. And that's what you have to have as a quarterback, right? And I think that he could excel at that because it's like I said, he's been in several different places. He's had to adapt. And Russell's had some success in the league, obviously. I mean, he's a Super Bowl champion, right? And, here's the thing, though. It's also risky because, I mean, obviously Russell Wilson's been in kind of a decline. He's not what he used to be. I mean, we saw that in Denver. And, we saw it quite a few times in Denver, right? It was just not the Russell Wilson that you remember from his younger days in Seattle. And also, like I said, he's got this ego, dude. Like, there's some kind of weird thing with Russell Wilson to where I just feel like it's, you think you're going to get that experience and that leader, but also you have to bring in a massive ego and just like some off-field things. Like, he's a popular person off the field. He's always in the headlines. Now it's obviously been a little quieter since he's kind of disappeared a little bit, but I'm not super opposed to it like I was. I still wouldn't choose that by any means. That would be my first go-to.
Russ has had some success. In 2023, he played 15 games with the Broncos. He had over 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, only 8 picks, 98 passer rating. He had 11 games with the Steelers in 2024, 2,500 yards, 16 TDs to 5 picks, a 96 passer rating. Still pretty high. With the Giants, before he lost his job to Jackson Dart, he played 6 games. He had about 1,000 yards, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions. His passer rating was a little low. I think he could be a good fit for the reasons of his deep ball accuracy still remains pretty strong. I think he led the PFF deep ball grading accuracy in 2024. So not too far removed from that. Reid's offense, he's been trying to get back to that vertical stretch game. So, I mean, he does throw the moon ball. So, like I said, players like Xavier Worthy, if you can retain Tyquan Thornton, that could be something that he could take advantage of for a few weeks. He's got some veteran leadership, like you said, elite preparation. I mean, that's what Brian Daboll said of him in 2025. He's just a guy that's a steadying presence in the QB room. So you've got those. The reasons I think he's a bad fit is he's too boom or bust, it seems. Mahomes has been able to, at times, take that, too high shell and nickel and dime and just move the chains and do things like that. But it seems like Russell struggles a lot with like timing and rhythm in the short passing game as of late. And if he makes a big play, he tends to want to hold the ball too long to create that big play. He's had high sack numbers. I think he had 45 in 2023, 33 in 2024. So I just mean at 37, 38 years old, I think his diminishing mobility just makes him a sitting duck back there, to be honest. And this is a system that requires quick processing, getting rid of the ball. That's when you see Andy's system at his best. You even see that with Chris Oladokun. This year, he looked a lot better than Minshew in the limited time Minshew played because Oladokun could get out of the pocket and extend plays. So, yeah, you guys get down in the comments. Let us know if you think Russell Wilson would be a good fit at QB2 or if we should just go the Minshew route again or maybe just get somebody else off free agency. Let us know if you think that'd be a good fit or if it'd just be a waste of time. But let's go ahead and transition over to some draft picks, some scouting, Steve. The defensive line is where a ton of Chiefs fans want to see changes and they want to see upgrades here. So let's talk about 2 guys that could very well be taken at number 9 and make some noise for Spagnuolo on this defense. The first guy we're going to talk about today, Peter Woods, defensive tackle, defensive line. He's very versatile. Out of Clemson, Steve, Peter Woods is a guy that a lot of people have as a top 10 player. I've seen him even as high as a top 5 player on people's draft boards. He was an 87 rated player in 2023. In 2024, he was an 84 rated player. This year, Clemson was down a little bit. His play went down a little bit. His stats went down a little bit. He was being more double teamed. He was pretty much the Chris Jones of the Clemson defense. So he was kind of being taken out of games, but you see him shifting inside, outside. He's playing A gap, B gap. He's over tackle. He's outside of tackle. He's playing off ball. He's doing lots of things, Steve. But Peter Woods is a guy that is very intriguing for a team that needs to possibly find a helper for Chris Jones, maybe a replacement for Chris Jones. And Peter Woods is a guy that you could see the Chiefs taking at number 9. He's very much a Spags guy, very much athletic. He's exactly what the doctor ordered if you want to create some pressure on the quarterback.
Absolutely. I mean, he's super twitchy and he's powerful on the inside and the interior, right? And I think a lot of people think that's some kind of insurance for Chris Jones. A lot of people are talking about the Chris Jones contract. We've seen people talk about should the Chiefs trade Chris Jones away. We've seen lots of different things there.
Yeah.
Peter Woods would definitely be a bit of an insurance plan, to say it in the lamest of terms, I guess. But like, Here's the thing with Peter Woods. His first step is elite. Just
Yes.
absolutely ridiculous for his size. I mean, I think he's 6'3", 315. The notes I have on him, basically it's just that he can create chaos on the inside of in the interior. He could shoot gaps. He's played everywhere from nose tackle to edge rusher. He's technically polished. He's powerful enough to command double teams, which is something that Chris Jones does now. If you pair them up, how do you handle that?
Right.
Also, if you don't have Chris Jones, who are you going to have that does that, right? So, I mean, a lot of things make sense for why the Chiefs would be high on Peter Woods. As far as the fit, I mean, just like I said, imagine the rotation where Chris Jones moves around and then you got Peter Woods, who's like a bowling ball next to him. I mean, Spags likes players that can win in those one-on-one matchups, right? He also likes players that can kind of create those mismatches where they have to double team him. He likes players that can move up and down the defensive line. We know this. Kind of like that the positionless defensive line is kind of the way that Spags likes to look at it. I mean, 0 to 5 tech, it doesn't matter. He can do all those techniques. I think that Peter Woods is perfect for that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you want to talk about any weaknesses for Peter Woods for me, it would just be that, like, maybe his, raw production, like the stats, like sacks, if you start looking at sacks, maybe it hasn't always matched up to his physical dominance.
Right.
Maybe I feel like maybe he could have done more. Like when you watch it, it's just like, dude, I'm surprised this guy's stats aren't through the roof. But I think scouts and me alike, when I watch Peter Woods tape, they want to see him finish more. They want to see him finish more. And can he do that at an NFL level? And I think that's the big question with him, because if you're not getting the finishing in the college level, are you going to be able to pull that out of him in the NFL level? I tend to think that we absolutely could. I think Spags is a perfect person to have a player like that. I would never scoff at getting a good defensive line piece. Anything that can put pressure on a quarterback, I think, is a value to the Chiefs. I think that's the biggest priority they have this offseason, is figuring out how to get more pressure on a quarterback. So I think Peter Woods would be a really cool pick. It'd be very interesting to see if he's there, in the first round, or if they trade back and he's still hanging around. It's very interesting to see if they would go, defensive tackle that early.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of that. I think right now he's sitting in the top 10. He's top 10 on our draft board right now, I know. I think Mel Kiper's got him somewhere in the middle between 10 and 18. I'm not 100% sure. He may have him top 10 by now. I'm not for sure. Daniel Jeremiah just dropped his first mock of the year. He had him dropping all the way to, I want to say, like 28 or pick 29, like somewhere down at the lower end of the first round, which is kind of odd to me. It's the first time I've ever seen him drop that low, because you hit the nail on the head. He's got rare explosiveness and just an elite first step to be 310, 315 pounds. He's just got that twitch. It's a Chris Jones style kind of twitch. At 6'3", he plays with really good leverage. He's low to the ground. He plays with good leverage. I think he's got really heavy hands. He's got a violent punch. He can reset the line of scrimmage quick. Like, he can just beat people up. And again, I mentioned he's pretty versatile. He's scheme proof. He can play a 1-tech, 3-tech. He can go wide 9 if you have to. He's played everything out at Clemson. So, and with me, I think the one thing that he struggles with a little bit, maybe towards scouts, he might have the Reuben Bain effect. His arms are a little shorter, but that shouldn't be a problem coming up the middle more than it would be a guy on the outside. And then in 2024, he had a 17% almost missed tackle rate, and he just got a little over aggressive sometimes. He got a little ahead of himself, would miss some tackles. But I'm with you. I think he's a Chris Jones effect kind of guy. They need a 3-tech disruptor, a guy that can get in here and do that. And they had it with Omar Norman-Lott, but the Chiefs tried to change his body type, and we've talked about this time and time again. Peter Woods would be more of a guy you don't have to change the body type with. He could still help versus the run. He can get after the passer. You rotate that in with Omar Norman-Lott. Now you might be able to kick Ashton Gillotte out. He was playing a lot on the inside last year in those NASCAR packages. Might be able to kick him back out to the edge, get him more snaps out there. I think it's a really good fit. I think he's got the juice. I think he's got everything that Spags would love. I actually seen him as kind of like a Jason Hargrave kind of guy, maybe even a Jeffrey Simmons kind of guy with Tennessee. He's got that freak athleticism, that massive lower body anchor. I mean, I've even seen some scouts whisper in circles, I've read up some stuff on him, and some people's even said Aaron Donald-esque, okay, because of his height, speed, power profile. I think that's a little much. But I will say, man, he looks like a a Chiefs kind of guy and a Spags kind of guy. So get in the comments. Let us know how you guys like Peter Woods. Would you be pleased if the Chiefs took him at number 9, or do you think they should trade back and maybe look for him? Let us know what you think. Get in the comments and let us know what you think there. Steve, let's move on to another guy here. And I'll let you talk about him first. I'm just going to introduce him, and I'll let you get first crack at everything with him. But defensive end, edge rusher / defensive tackle, because he's a man of many trades here, out of Auburn, Kedrick Faulk. Steve, what do you think about Kedrick Faulk?
Yeah, so I mean, my first impression when I just started digging into, the draft and specifically edge rushers was like the first thing I looked at. When I watched Kedrick Faulk, I will say this, I wrote him off a little bit too early. I thought that, him being 6'6", 290 pounds almost, like I thought, man, this guy's going to end up being a defensive tackle or something.
Yeah.
And he's not that type of edge rusher that we're really looking to get in Kansas City, because Spags has a type, and Kedrick Faulk is that type, or Kedrick Faulk is that type. He just is. He's like a prototype, big body defensive end. I mean, traditionally the Chiefs have gone this route with Spags at the helm, and I mean, he kind of reminds you of like what George Karlaftis can do somewhat. He's going to be a bookend, incredible in run defense. But I will say, I started to like him more. The more and more tape I watch, I liked what Kedrick Faulk had to bring, man. I mean, he had like 29 pressures according to PFF. His run defense grade was at 84.2, which is elite. But, I've been wanting that pass rusher. I've been wanting somebody to put some pressure on the quarterback. Right. And I am sitting here thinking, like, maybe this guy ain't it. But when I watch his tape, I think he definitely could be that. He's such a massive dude with crazy length. And, not only is he dominant as a run defender who sets the edge, which is exactly what Spags looks for, but he also is able to get after that quarterback for a couple different reasons. And it might remind you of like George Karlaftis, because I wrote in my notes, he has a high motor. Yeah. And he has a violent long arm move that can collapse a pocket. He's just big. And he's physical, and he might not be as fast as we would like him to be, but I think he's got sufficient speed. I mean, he's not slower than George Karlaftis, who we always knock for maybe not being able to finish there at the end. But I like I said, I started to fall in love with him a little bit more the more I watched, and I plan on watching him some more. Weakness wise is like, he's still developing as a pass rusher. So it's not like you're getting somebody that's going to come in the league and just already be polished and be completely impactful right off the rip. I just don't see that happening with Kedrick Faulk. I think this is more of a project type thing as far as the pass rush goes, because he relies more on his power than he does speed or bend or anything like that, obviously. Yeah. And, sometimes even though when you're a big dude, you're, 6'6", 290-ish, that's not necessarily that hard to handle for an NFL tackle. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes just winning with straight power isn't always the answer. I think as far as like with the Chiefs, he is a good fit. Obviously, I already kind of hit on that, but the Chiefs have a very specific threshold they have on these guys as far as defensive ends goes. We've seen that over the years, much to our dislike, but they have to be heavy. They have to have the long arms. Stout against the run, and he's just that quintessential Spags type. He just is. Like, I would not be surprised in the least bit to see them take a look at Kedrick Faulk. I mean, if you look back at like Tano Passanio and guys like that, like that's what it makes me think of. But I think it is best, Mike. I see a lot of like Carlos Dunlap and some guys like that. So I think it could be effective. I don't think he is as good of a prospect as the aforementioned Peter Woods. I think I'd rather have that pass rush presence that he brings and that disruption, but I do think he's a better fit overall for the Chiefs when you start going by what they traditionally go with.
Right. Kedrick Faulk, I mean, you just take one look at him and he's the prototypical Spags guy. Like, you just 100%. See it. You see it. And it's almost one of those things where it's like last year, Josh Simmons felt too easy. Some of these guys feel too easy, and it's like, this guy just feels too easy. Like, it's dumb if a lot of Chiefs fans don't think that this is a guy they're not going to look at. And so is 9 too rich? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Mel Kiper's got him, I think, in his top 15, 16 players. I think I've got him in my top 15. I'm not for sure what exact, spot he is, but he's right there in the mid-half. So maybe this is an option you could possibly trade down a few picks and load up a little bit more, maybe even load up for 2027, much better draft class in 2027, but maybe you can still get a guy that's a Spags guy. Again, you mentioned it, elite size and length, 6'6", 285. He dominates the edge. He really does. He can slide inside. He would be great, again, in those NASCAR packages that Spags likes to run. That would be amazing to see him inside with Chris Jones, if Omar Norman-Lott can't get back healthy, or maybe he can do the things that, again, you had Ashton Gillotte do last year, and I think he's going to do them a lot better than Gillotte. Gilotte's only 260 pounds. This guy's going to throw people around way more than Gillotte, but I think he's very good against the run defense. He sets a concrete edge. He just does. He's versatile. He goes up and down the line. He was voted team captain when he was just 20 years old, so he's known for his high football IQ. With you, I'm with you on the cons as well. I don't think he's as polished as a pass rusher, but that's also pretty good. I mean, right now he just pretty much bull rushes, push pulls. Hey, I'm stronger than you are, and just kind of throws people around. Now that may not work in the NFL, but that means he's a clean slate. If we could just get Colin to start developing some of these guys and giving them some moves rather than taking them away, like you've seen with Felix Anudike-Uzomah and all these guys, it's like we got to start developing these guys a little better. You mentioned his speed. He's about what George Karlaftis is, so I could definitely see another guy that's just a step or two late with the way these quarterbacks are starting to get in the pocket. That might be frustrating. I think he lacks a little bit of bend, like the smaller speed guys are going to be, like your David Baileys and stuff. He's just not that. He's not going to be that. And sometimes at 6'6", his height could be a disadvantage. He will tend to stand up at the line of scrimmage a lot and lose leverage, and you're going to get guards and tackles and even centers on the inside that is going to out-leverage him and just destroy him. So he's going to have to work on that a little bit, but I'm with you. I think this NASCAR package type stuff could work. I think he's just versatile in those heavy hands. You mentioned Passanio and George Karlaftis. That's like spot on. He's going to crush the run. He's going to knock down passes, and he's going to set an edge, and that's what Spags likes. I really do think, for me, he kind of reminded me of Mikael Williams that come out from Georgia, I want to say last year or the year before, and went to the 49ers late. He kind of reminds me of like a Greg Rousseau from the Bills. He kind of just plays like, that old adage, that bull in a china shop kind of thing. That's what Kedrick Faulk reminds me of when I watch him. So I really do think that he should – I want to see how he tests at the combine and what he does during that process with pro day and stuff, because I want to see what his measurables turn out, because if he really comes up and runs well, has a nice 10-yard split, he puts up a lot in the bench, he puts up a lot in those, where they switch their hips a little bit on the edge, and you can see how much he's long jumping and high jumping and things like that, and see how explosive he is. He really could solidify himself as a top 10 pick, and the Chiefs could very well take a shot on him.
Absolutely. I did notice the more I watched him, the more I think he's going up my draft board. So I could definitely see him maybe making it into that top 10. There's a lot of guys that are very high on him. I've seen him ranked as high as third when it comes to just pass rushers. So, I mean, that's pretty wild, but I have seen it. So it could definitely happen. Guys, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate it if you guys would give us a 5-star review. Leave some nice, kind words about us at the bottom. That would be absolutely awesome. If you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're trying to get to 60,000 subscribers before this next season kicks off, and we need your help. A lot of you guys aren't subscribed, or at least that's what YouTube tells us. So hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Go Chiefs.